I have been known to tell bad jokes. In fact, my daughter, when she was 4, you're older than 4, right? Yeah, that's what I thought. How old? 10? Almost 5. You can round up. Rounding up is really fair. So almost 5. When, you know how it is when your kids are learning how to brush their teeth when they're really little, you brush their teeth for them, right? And you're both looking in the mirror at the same time. And then you put their hand on your hand while you brush your teeth, so you get the idea of muscle memory. And then you get the toothbrush in their hand and hold on to their hand and brush their teeth. And then they graduate to brushing their teeth all by themselves, but you do it next to them because, you know, solidarity and all that stuff. And one time we were brushing our teeth. She was at the stage where she's brushing her own teeth. I'm doing it next to her. And we finish, and she says, "Dad," and I said, "What?" And she looked at me and said, "Tomorrow we should count the number of bad jokes you make." And I looked at her and I said, "Okay." And she said, "Dad," I said, "I have to be there for them to count." I said, "Okay, that sounds fair." And she said, "Dad," I said, "What?" "The first bad joke you say is the second bad joke." I said, "Why?" "Because the first bad joke is you getting up in the morning." Which I thought was really good for a 4-year-old. It was really, really good. And I make bad jokes. I think they're good jokes. But other people say they're bad jokes. So I'll do that. There's another cool story, and I'll start. What?
How many bad jokes did you tell the next day?
It was somewhere, I can't remember exactly, but it was somewhere between 107 and 214. And she was only with me that day. When I got up, we had breakfast, I drove her to daycare, and then I picked her up at 1 and came home. She had a nap. So it was basically about 6 hours worth of bad jokes.
Okay.
So, yeah, I won't give you that many. I promise. I will give a few. I have some classics I really like. In fact, I was on the way here, we had a rehearsal. We're doing an UNESCO play, The Leader. It's in a book that has the rhinoceros in it, but the rhinoceros is too long because we're all old. And we have to memorize short plays as opposed to long plays. And I got a banana and an orange in my hand. And they said, "Are you going to do that banana and orange joke? You know that knock-knock joke? The classic one? Knock-knock.
Who's there?
Banana.
Banana.
Knock-knock.
Who's there?
Banana.
Banana.
Knock-knock.
Who's there?
Banana.
Banana.
Knock-knock.
Who's there?
Orange.
Orange, you gonna say banana?
No, I'm not going to say that. My daughter, I won't tell the other story. I'll tell this story because I just got reminded of it. My daughter, when she was 3, made up this really cool knock-knock joke. We were after dinner, my son and I were telling knock-knock jokes, and she was listening. And then all of a sudden she said, "Knock-knock." And I said, "Who's there?" And she said, "Light bulb." I said, "Light bulb who?" And she said, "Got any good ideas in there?" That's a classic 3-year-old joke. It makes sense, but it's not a knock-knock joke, but it's really funny only because a 3-year-old says it. That's just really cool. Speaking of 3, don't worry about it.
Sorry, it's my blood sugar.
That's all right. I'm very, you may have noticed that I'm very informal, so I don't mind interruptions. But I gotta remember what I was gonna do. Oh yeah. I'm going to tell the story. I wasn't going to tell the story to start, but my plans changed. This story is true because my mother told it to me. We were on our way to get ice cream. This was down at the Cape. When I was a kid, we would go down to the Cape. My mom would pick us up on the last day of school with the car all packed. And we would go down, and we would be at the Cape all summer long. At that stage, my dad only got 2 weeks of vacation. So he would spend 1 week at the Cape with us, and then the last week he'd take us up to Maine. And my grandfather, he was still working, because I was born when he was 50. So he didn't retire till I was 15 years old. And, you know, this is probably about 6, 7, 8. He was still working. He had a month of vacation, so he would come down for the month of July. The rest of the time would be my mom, my aunt, my grandmother, and 6, 7, 8 kids, depending on when it was in the whole stretch of time. And after dinner, when my grandfather was down there, he would say, once a week, do you want to go get ice cream? And what do you think he would say?
Nah.
Yeah. No! He would say yes. And then we would always say, of course, I scream, you scream, we all scream for ice cream, and we would pile into his car, and this was back before seatbelts. There was my grandfather, my grandmother, my mom, and my aunt all in the front seat. And we had 8 kids. So 2 of the littlest kids were in the front, and all the other kids were in the back. And me being the oldest, I had a kid in my lap, no seatbelts. We'd drive over to Centerville for C's ice cream. We'd get ice cream. And one time, on the way over, my mom started laughing. And I had learned that when my mom started laughing, it was a good idea to ask her why. So I said, why? Mom, why are you laughing? And she said, oh, I'm just remembering your first ice cream cone. And I said, what about it? So she told the story on the way over to Centerville. I do not remember this because it happened when I was 3. This is what reminded me of it, my daughter being 3. But I was in 3 years. I was 3 months old. I was born in Long Island. That's where my dad's first job was. I was the first kid born outside of New England in over 250 years. And my mom had grown up going to the Cape every summer since she was 6 years old. Now she's 24, she's got a kid. She wants to go to the Cape, so she says to my dad, I've got to get to the Cape for the 4th of July. And he said to her, it's a long drive. And she said, I don't care. You're driving. So he did. And I went along with him because they couldn't leave me behind at 3 months old. I was sitting in my mom's lap in the front seat. Again, this is before seatbelts. My mom was kind of like my car seat. She had a lap. It got me up a little higher. I could see out windows. She was also a little bit like my seatbelt. All my dad had to do was think about putting on the brakes, and my mom's left arm would come around me, and her right arm would come up to the dashboard like this. She was very effective seatbelt. And it took a long time to get to the Cape in those days. The big highways hadn't been built. You're going up Route 1, Route 6. We got to the bridge in Bourne. We'd been driving for hours. Well, I hadn't been. I'd just been hanging out. My dad had been driving, and it was really hot. The car had no air conditioning. There was a traffic jam going over the bridge. The windows were rolled down, and my mom looked out and saw a sign that said, ice cream. Ice cream, yes. So she went to my dad like this. It saved talking. It got his attention. He said, what? She pointed to the sign. He said, oh, ice cream, that sounds great. Yum. She said, yum. I didn't say anything. Only 3 months old. They pulled in the parking lot. They got out. I got out with them. I didn't have much choice. My mom's carrying me. This is how parents get strong. They start carrying kids when they're like 7, 8, 9, 10 pounds. Kids grow. I don't know if you've noticed. But they do it gradually. It's like a built-in weight training program. By the time I weighed 50 pounds and my brother weighed 40 pounds, I was the oldest, she could carry both of us, one in each arm. You did not mess with my mom. But I didn't make much of it. They got over, they got a couple cones, they're walking back to the car. My mom's holding me, she's eating her ice cream cone, and she told me, it was a long drive, she told me as we're driving over to Centerville, as she was eating, she said I was looking at the cone like this. So she turned to my dad and said, do you think he's old enough to have some? And my dad said, sure. That's what a lot of dads say when you ask them a question like that. They don't even have to think about it. It doesn't involve the thought process. Sure, it's okay, I don't care. So she held out the cone, I leaned towards it, I stuck out my tongue like this. For some reason, when I stuck out my tongue, my eyes opened. Yeah, it was like there was a string going from my tongue to my eyes. And I got the tip of my tongue into the ice cream. And I pulled it back in my mouth. And my mom said my face did this. I loved it. I thought it was the best thing I'd ever tasted in 3 months of existence. I wanted it all in my mouth at the same time. Before my mom could stop me, I grabbed the cone and I pulled it towards my mouth. But I was so excited, I forgot to open my mouth. So the whole cone just went like this, swoosh, right in my face. So we had to walk back to the stand. They threw away the smushed cone, bought another cone, got a bunch of napkins, wiped up my face. And my mom held me in her lap, and my dad fed me with one of those little wooden spoons. You know those, right? Yeah. So that's the story of my first ice cream cone. I do not remember this at all, but because my mom started laughing while we were driving over to Centerville, and I asked her why, I got the story. And I used to, when my mom passed away a couple of years ago, and she was living with my sister in West Boylston, I thought of that as I was driving down here, because I went right by West Boylston. And I used to stop on the way back from when I told stories in the library or senior center, and I'd visit with her and I'd say, "Hey Mom, I told that ice cream story today," and she would just laugh and laugh and laugh. I also would tell her I sang this song, because we sang the song when we were kids. When we were driving to the Cape, we could never agree what radio station to play unless there was a Red Sox game on. So we would often sing in the car. And this was the song we'd sing a lot. And I forgot about it until I was driving to a senior center and they wanted me to tell rain stories. And I thought, rain stories, do I know one? I'm driving here, of course. And I thought, I know a couple of them. And then all of a sudden the song popped in my head. Or it was already there, but the cobwebs that kept it stuck in a place where I couldn't remember it got loosened. And I remembered it because I was driving in the rain. You may know it, but if you don't, I'm going to teach it to you, even if you do. It goes like this. If all the raindrops were lemon drops and gumdrops. Try that, ready? If all the raindrops were lemon drops and gumdrops. The next line goes, oh, what a rain that would be. Oh, what a rain that would be. The next line goes, I'd stand outside with my mouth open wide. Try that. I'd stand outside with my mouth open wide. Now this is where we take it loose, the adults. But yes, nobody's going to see you do this. You open your mouth really wide, plus you stick out your tongue like this. And nobody's going to see you do it. I can prove it to you. Look straight up at the ceiling. Can you see anybody else? No, that means they can't see you. I learned this playing hide and seek when I was a kid. In Sudbury, we had about 25 kids in the neighborhood, and we'd all go to the Blanchette's house because they had the most kids. 7 kids, it wasn't fair to move them anywhere. And they had tons of places to hide. And the way it works is if you were over 12, you hid with somebody who was under 4. That way, you could get a good hiding place. Plus, if you got caught, the big kid would pick up the little kid and run like that to get back towards safety before the person who was it. And you're over 4, you did by yourself. And to be able to be it, you had to count to 100. Right? So one time I was it, and it wasn't really a complicated 100. Like, I was it. And the other rule about being it was you had to close your eyes and put your hands over your eyes. Both. So I was it. I closed my eyes, hands over my eyes. I counted to 100 like this. 1, 2, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 40, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49, 100. We got good at it really fast. And I took my hands up and I was over my eyes, and there was this girl who had just turned 4. You're about to turn 5. She had just turned 4 the week before. It was her first time hiding by herself. And she was standing about 10 feet away from me with her hands over her eyes like this. And I looked at her and I said, I can see you. And she said, no, you can't. And I said, yes, I can see you. You're standing there with your hands over your eyes. No, you can't see me at all. Why can't I see you? I can't see you, so you can't see me. And I said, okay. And I went to look for somebody who I could see. Do you know she stood there for 4 hours with her hands over her eyes, and nobody ever found her? We were really nice kids. So nobody's going to see you do this. Look straight up at the ceiling, open your mouth, really wide, stick out your tongue, and go, ah, 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 ah. And the last line you already know. If all the raindrops were lemon drops and gumdrops, oh, what a rain that would be. Now I'll sing it straight through. It's fun. If all the raindrops were lemon drops and gumdrops, oh, what a rain that would be. I'd stand outside with my mouth open wide. If all the raindrops were lemon drops and gumdrops, oh, what a rain that would be. And you know, I was down in North Carolina working at this camp, and that's the only person I know, or knew, until I worked at the camp. And I sang the song, and some kids came up to me afterwards. They were 5 years old, and they said, you know, there are other verses. And I said, really? They said, yeah. So they sang one. If all the sunbeams were ice cream and lemon creams, oh, what a sun that would be. Yeah, and the rest was the same. And then they sang, if all the snowflakes were vanilla cakes and chocolate cakes. Yes, so you can make up more verses. And it's so much fun. I mean, I've learned as an adult that I can learn things from 5-year-olds, quite a few things actually. And so I learned those verses. This, I did not learn from 5-year-olds. A friend of mine taught me. I gotta get something over here. I play music with spoons. I should make sure. Do you have these at home?
Yes.
Okay, good. You got some? Good. Good. So I'm going to show you how to play music with spoons. There are YouTube videos. You don't have to take notes about this. I actually injured myself in high school in art class. Most people injured themselves in team sports or gym class. I injured myself in art class because I was creative. And I hurt my finger so it doesn't bend properly. So when I went to try and play the guitar, it didn't bend the right way. And I'm too impatient to learn how to deal with it. So I learned how to play spoons. You take one spoon, you put it between your thumb and your first finger like this. The next spoon goes between your first and second finger like that. You see how they form a long V? Then you close your fist around the spoon. You tuck the point of the spoons into the palm of your hand, and you hold them like that. Now, you need your knee for this. Luckily, I have two. So I'm going to play the spoons on my knee like it's just tap. Sounds really good in this room. You should take this room home with me. And you can tap on your hand. You get different sounds depending on what part of your body you tap on. You put your hand up above your knee, go back and forth. You can run across your fingers like this. Sort of the Lone Ranger effect, which takes me a little bit. Then you combine the different movements and sounds. Or you can play music with spoons. It's so cool. And different spoons make different sounds. These spoons are amazing. They're incredibly rare. Hardly anybody has spoons like this. They're made out of plastic. Yeah, a lot of people have spoons like this. Although these are actually compostable, they're made out of corn oil. I got them at a Hampshire College reunion, and Hampshire College is really into recycling. And because they're made out of corn oil, they sound different than regular plastic spoons. One, they're thicker. Two, the molecules are different, and I can't explain it again because I was an arts major. So I'm going to move the microphone down to my knee because they're kind of shy. Stay. Isn't that cool? It's just a pair of plastic spoons. They don't last as long as metal spoons. Like some people, they get fatigued, and like some people who get fatigued, they crack and the juice flies off. But it's no big deal. You just get another pair of plastic spoons. These, where'd they go? Oh, the wrong place. These, you can get at a music store. You can also get them on Amazon, but try a music store first for reasons we won't go over to. You can hold the, they're already in a piece of plastic. You don't have to put your finger between them. In fact, if you do, it hurts, so don't do it. You hold on to the red part and you tap like this. And these go great with a song my dad sang at bedtime. When I was growing up, my bedtime until I was in 3rd grade in Sudbury was 7:30. That's when I was supposed to be in bed. Toothbrush, bathroom at night, pajamas. But then we get into bed and my mom or dad would read to us with books we got out of the library, or the Wizard of Oz books, which are from my dad's side of the family, or the Winnie the Pooh books, which are from my mom's side of the family. Then the lights would go out and my mom or dad would sing to us for half an hour. So a real go to sleep time was 8:30, except one time when I was 4 and my brother Rick was 1 and Stephen hadn't been born yet and Nancy hadn't been born yet. After singing and my dad went downstairs, I was still awake. So I got out of bed. Being 4 years old, I knew if I'm not asleep, I should not be in bed, right? So I got out of bed, I went downstairs, we were watching television. I stood in front of my dad and said, "Dad, I'm still awake." And he looked at me and said, "I can tell." I said, "Could you put another side of a record on?" Because he would play records after he sang. And after the record, I was still awake. So he looked at me and said, "Tell you what, you get back up into bed, and when you're asleep, I'll put another side of the record on." I looked at him and I said, "Oh, good." And I ran upstairs, I jumped into bed, I pulled up the covers, and I yelled as loud as I could, "I'm asleep!" And I heard him laughing downstairs. "Yeah, I'm not asleep, am I?" So he put another record on. But he was singing this song. You may have heard this song. Besides being sung by my dad, it was sung by African American, Irish American, Chinese American, Japanese American, Italian American, Polish American, a whole bunch of other American railroad workers. They had these big 16, 20-pound sledgehammers. And they had spikes that they're hammering in to hold the tracks together. They work for 12 hours. And you get kind of bored doing this. So they made up a song. The first part, to work with, they go, "I've been working on the railroad all the livelong day." Now that's how fast they sang it, because they didn't want to get tired. My dad at bedtime sang it faster than that, because he wanted us to get tired. So we're going to sing it at the speed my dad sang it. I'll play the spoons. You know it. And even if you don't, you can sing along. I don't really care. I got a sound system. Here we go. I've been working on the railroad all the livelong day. I've been working on the railroad just to pass the time away. Can't you hear the whistle blowing? Rise up so early in the morning. Can't you hear the traffic shouting? Down and blow your horns. Go a little faster. I'm going to blow, I'm going to blow. That's it. It's kind of fun. Now, a lot of different cultures play spoons. And if they don't play spoons, they'll play cowboys in a similar way. Hold them in their hands, bang them together from all over the world. This instrument came from Ireland and Scotland. I like this one a lot. It's a dog. It's a little hard to tell because it's upside down. It sort of looks like a camel, but it's a dog. Some kids ask me if it's a real dog. I always say yes, because I hurt its feelings. And 2, it is a real dog. It's just a real cheap. I hope that does. I didn't bring him here just for you to look at him sleep, though. I know his eyes are wide open, but wooden dogs sleep with their eyes wide open. It's just who they are. I brought him here so you could see him dance, because he's actually a traditional musical instrument called a lumberjack. In Ireland and Scotland, people would have these dolls, kind of like marionettes, puppets, and they'd have strings coming up to a pulley, back to another pulley, back down to a pedal, and they'd be on a hollow wooden platform, and as they played the fiddle or the squeeze box, they would tap on the pedal, and the doll would move and jump on the board, and it would be like a percussion instrument. Then they started making them shorter, smaller, putting a stick in their back, and they'd sit on the board and tap it. So others were called a jack doll, then it became a lumberjack. In this country, they started making them in the shape of animals. I always use the history lesson while he's still asleep. He gets really bored with it. He's heard it so much. We gotta wake him up. Some people don't like being woken up by really loud noises. Alarm clocks. People yelling in the room. Hey, you're gonna be late. He does not like that at all. He likes being woken up really gently. So on the count of 3, we're going to whisper his name and say, please, wake up. All right? Yeah, whisper things like that. Yeah, okay, here I go. 1. Did I forget something? Oh, that's right. It's not going to work if I don't tell you his name. I should spell it. I'm really bad at spelling. I started to realize I was bad at spelling in like 5th grade when I spelled lawyer wrong. I'm still bad at spelling, but I'm getting better as I practice. So I like to practice. I'm going to spell his name. B. B is the first letter of my last name, so that's how I remember the B. B. And I remembered it, so I is the second letter. B, I. We're not at the end. But N. N is the next letter. That's how I remember the end. I have to do things. G. I don't know what the next letter is. Oh! B-I-N-G-O. That's it. Bingo. Bingo. That's his name. Okay, on the count of 3. Thank you. Good thing you're here. On the count of 3, we're going to whisper, wake up, please wake up. See if I do it by myself.
Before you start, can you excuse us a bit like her baby brother's crying?
Oh no! Okay, as you go out, I'm going to speed it up and he's going to dance you out. All right, so that you can still see him dance. All right? Because, I mean, you're younger brother crying. It's like, I learned a long time ago, when kids cry, there's a reason, and you gotta go help them out. Okay, ready? You ready to dance out with him? Okay, on the count of 3, here we go. Oh yeah, you gotta put that on to dance out. That's cool. Okay, here we go. And he's gonna watch you go out. Ready? But he can't watch you go out if you don't go out. Ready? That's okay. He's gonna watch you. He's gonna watch you all the way. I promise. It's also gonna wait for you. You can do it. It's so hard. So now I'll switch into the adult mode of this. Because his favorite song is with us. Yes, everybody loves songs about that. We're only going to do one verse. You can't do the thing where you clap and do the other stuff, but we're going to do one verse, and he's going to hang up. You got to get on the board to dance. Yeah, it doesn't work if you're not on the board. Takes him a little while to get situated. It's a little bit of a prima dog. I told you they're going to be bad jokes. Does he look ready?
Oh yeah.
Either that or he's doing yoga. He doesn't really mean downward left. Ready, we'll sing, you'll hear him dance. There was a farmer had a farm. There was a farmer had a dog. No, somebody else did. I have a friend who makes lumberjacks. I should try making it. It's really actually very easy because it's just, I'm going to hold you up by your neck. It's just the way it is. It's just 9 pieces of wood. You know, piece of plywood, you can use plywood, good quality plywood for the body. And then 2 pieces of wood for each leg. And there's a hole through the bottom part and a peg going through that fits tightly in that hole, but this piece of leg has a bigger hole. So it goes around, it swings around. And this, as you can tell by the pink duct tape, his leg has come off twice. But I don't have to go to the vet. I just took toothpicks and put them through and broke them and put duct tape on both times. So yeah, it's pretty easy to make. Scrap leather into his face. And you can tell his favorite color is pink from the bead on his, yeah. So I usually sing a lullaby afterwards to put him to sleep. It's a really cool lullaby. I'll sing it once through for you. And then I'm going to sing an adult lullaby. It's not going to put you to sleep, but it's a song my dad used to sing, and it's getting closer to Halloween, and it has a ghost story. This one comes from Puerto Rico. This instrument does not come from Puerto Rico. It was made in Vietnam, but it's originally from the Aztec Indians in the Andes Mountains. They make them out of cactus and put shells inside with small stones called a rain stick. And in Puerto Rico, there's this little tiny tree frog called the coquí. And it's called a coquí because when it wakes up, when the sun goes down, like a lot of animals in the rainforest, it sleeps during the day, which a lot of us would like to do, but we can't because we work. And it wakes up when the sun goes down, and the male frog will sing ko, and then the female frog will sing ki. But they do it so fast, it goes like this: coquí, 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 coquí. So it sounds like one frog. So it's called a coquí. And parents made up a lullaby that goes like this: coquí, 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 you enchant me. Your song is so pretty, coquí. At night in my bed while I'm lying, sleep comes when you're singing to me. Coquí, chorus. Coquí, 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 coquí. And when I do this with kids, I have them go to sleep, or pretend to go to sleep. And then they wake up to sing the chorus. And then at the end, we see if they goes actually to sleep by shouting his name. And if he doesn't blink, then he's asleep. And he's sleeping like a log because he's, you know. Thank you. My friends would say, don't encourage him. Don't encourage him. He's really good at making puns. I went to Hampshire College, and they say that for some reason a lot of Hampshire College students make puns. But this, I don't think I've ever played an instrument on this one. No, I'm just going to do this. This is a lullaby that comes from Ireland. It wasn't meant as a lullaby, but my dad would sing this at bedtime during the quiet time. The rowdy stuff would be first, this would be later. He did not sing the last verse. And I'd forgotten all about this song until I was looking for Irish folk songs. And nowadays it's really cool. If you want to learn Irish folk songs, you can just type in Irish folk songs lyrics in a Google search. These sites come up with all these titles that are highlighted. If you see a title you think you know, or if you like the title, you can click on it. And if you know it, then you know all the words. If you don't know it, then you go to YouTube. Somebody there is singing it. So you learn the tune, you put it with the words, and it's much easier to learn folk songs than it used to be. And I was going through, and I saw this title, and I said, wait a minute, do you know that song? So I clicked on it, the words came up. I did not have to learn the tune, I did not have to learn the words, because my dad had sung this hundreds of times when I was a kid, except for the last verse. That I had to learn, and you'll see why when we get there. I bet you know what it is. In Dublin's fair city, where the girls are so pretty, it was there that I first met sweet Molly Malone. She wheeled her wheelbarrow through streets broad and narrow, Crying cockles and mussels, alive, alive, oh, the chorus goes. Alive, alive, oh, alive, alive, oh. Crying cockles and mussels, alive, alive, oh. And if you didn't know that chorus before, you do now. So you can sing it, and don't worry about getting the words to the tune right, because it's folk music. Ready? Alive, alive, oh, alive, alive, oh. Crying cockles and mussels, alive, alive, oh. She was a fishmonger, and sure it was no wonder, 'cause so were her mother and father before. They wheeled their wheelbarrow through streets broad and narrow, crying cockles and mussels, alive, alive, oh. Now the chorus. Alive, alive, oh, alive, alive, oh. Crying cockles and mussels, alive, alive, oh. Now here's the verse I had to learn. She died of a fever, and no one could save her, and that was the end of my Molly Malone. Now her ghost wheels the barrow through streets broad and narrow, crying cockles and mussels, alive, alive, oh. Last time. Alive, alive, oh, alive, alive, oh. Crying cockles and mussels, alive, alive, oh. Nice thing. You can probably guess why my dad did not sing that last verse at that time. Lassie could scare me when I was a kid. You know, we'd be watching Lassie be trapped in a burning building. I had nightmares for weeks about being trapped in a burning building. So a ghost story at bedtime had the opposite effect of what you would like. It's a nice song. And I really like all these different songs and instruments that come from other places. I'm going to show you one of my newest ones. And I'm going to check the time while I do it because I have no idea what time it is. Do you think they, see that clock back there?
Yeah.
Do you think they took the hands off of that clock because they didn't want anybody to know at meetings what time it was?
Probably.
Yeah. To say, oh, I want to go. Oh, this is my newest instrument. It's a little loud. I'm only going to do it once, especially since I just had hearing aids. It's really loud when you have hearing aids. Well, outdoors is great. It's called a shaker egg or a calabash. Comes from West Africa. Sometimes they have shells around. This has wooden beads. Sometimes beams will be drilled through, or in modern days, plastic. But I'm really glad it's the wood. You can also play it indoors. There's a great group called Sweet Honey on the Rock. They play one of these when they sing. Indoors, it's much easier to sing it like this. So, I really love this. It's all work. This other instrument is also a hollow board. Comes from Puerto Rico, you can tell because it has a Puerto Rican flag on it. And also because I told you. And it's, there it is. This is called a comb. Man, I would hate to try and put this through my beard, but I don't. I use it to play this instrument. This comes from Puerto Rico. It's called a guiro, which means gourd in Spanish. Gourds are used for a lot of different things in Puerto Rico and Africa. They're used for containers, they're used for birdhouses, they're used for ladles, they're all sorts of things. They're very hard, almost like very thin plywood, but you can grow it yourself. And when they're really tiny, like this big, you can eat them. They're soft. And also when they're soft, you can take a knife or a shell and cut scratches in it parallel every half inch, quarter inch. And as it grows, those little cuts you made will get deeper and wider. And when it's big like this, you'll have 8 little gouges. And then you take the seeds out, plug it up, and you can play it. This one, somebody took a power tool to it. I really like singing this song with it. I'm just going to sing the chorus. I bet you know what it goes. This land is your land, this land is my land, from California to the New York Island, from with forests in the ghostly waters, this land was made for you and me. And the cool thing is that there's all these things people brought with them to this country. Stories, food, instruments, and this one, the mesa, means head in Spanish. It looks like a head in the neck. It's really great instrument to play. I'm sort of speeding through these because I have about 10 minutes left. And I wanted to tell you a story about my grandmother, sing a song, a couple of songs, and play this musical instrument. Yeah, they're sleigh bells. They came from my grandfather. My grandfather gave them to me. These are over 150 years old. When my grandfather was growing up in Essex Junction, Vermont, it's just up near Burlington, he took my grandmother on dates in a horse and buggy, because there was no car. And he used his dad's, my great-grandfather's horse and buggy. My great-grandfather was the sheriff of Chittenden County, and he was 6'6" and weighed 320 pounds, which was one of the main reasons people voted for him, because he was so big and so strong, plus he was a Republican, which was kind of, you had to be in those days in Vermont. And he had a one-person buggy that was a little extra wide, because he was extra wide. So my grandfather would take my grandmother on dates, because even though they were two people, they could fit in that extra wide buggy by squishing. And when you were growing up as a teenager in Essex Junction, Vermont, in the early 1920s, you did not get much chance to squish together. So you took every opportunity you could, and they had a horsehair blanket over them. They'd go to the dance, and I don't know if you've noticed, horses don't come in headlights. It's not, it's just not part of them. So at nighttime, especially if it was snowing, they had bells over the horse's shoulder and over its hindquarters, or well, if you want to get less formal. And as they went along, people would know they were running. So of course you know what my favorite song to sing on this is. Yeah. So we're going to sing it, because it's my show. Here we go. Jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in one-horse open sleigh. Jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in one-horse open sleigh. Dashing through the snow in a one-horse open sleigh. O'er the fields we go, laughing all the way. Oh, bells on bobtail rings, making spirits bright. Oh, what fun it is to sing a sleighing song tonight. Oh, jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in a one-horse open sleigh. Hey, jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in a one-horse open sleigh. And those are a lot of variation too. Thank you. See, the thing about that song is, when I sing it, part of me is in the car with my parents and my brothers, coming back from Thanksgiving, because we couldn't sing it going to Thanksgiving, because my dad had a rule that you did not sing any Christmas songs at all until after Thanksgiving, and that was the meal, not the date, right? So it was always so cool that we were so excited to be able to sing all these Christmas carols on the way back in the car, and we'd save them all. So it's the way it is with a lot of the songs. The smells, baked bread. Baked bread always reminds me of Aunt Sally. She wasn't related to me, but we called her Aunt Sally. And it was down at the Cape, and she would let us climb on her roof. It was one of those old Cape Cod houses, and the roof was really steep, the main part, but you could climb up onto the woodshed, get onto the garage, and then up onto the workshop, and then down into the part where the kitchen was, and then up onto the next part, and then the steep part connected to that part, so you just climb up on the steep part, and punch along on your butt. For me, because I was scared of heights, or my cousins would actually stand and go over, and then we would stand there and hold onto the chimney, and we would look out and be able to see the harbor and see what boats were coming. And we knew it was time to come down when we smelled baking bread. That's how Sally would get us down. She'd bake bread. She wouldn't say, hey, come down from the roof, she'd just bake bread. As soon as we smell it, we said, ooh, bread. So we'd do everything backwards, we'd jump down off the woodshed, we'd run into her kitchen just as she was slicing the bread that had come out of the oven and on a big breadboard, and the butter was there. We'd grab a piece and we'd take a knife and get butter, and you'd put the butter on the bread, and it would melt because the bread was so warm out of the oven. Just the smell of bread would bring all that back to me. And this song brings things back to me. I learned this song at Hampshire College. It's one of the few things I learned at Hampshire College that I still don't use a lot, so I like to use it as often as possible. Besides how I learned it, they taught me that really well. This song, and I'll tell you the story about it afterwards, your part in this song is really easy. It's the sound you make when you eat watermelon. Exactly. This song reminds me of two things. I'll tell you the story about my grandfather afterwards, but it reminds me of my dad coming home from Redstone Missile Arsenal in Huntsville, Alabama, because he would come home by a truck that would be parked right outside the base, and it would be filled with ice and watermelon. So we'd buy 3 watermelons, he'd drive home, and he'd say, watermelon, and he'd bring one out, and we lived in a neighborhood with a lot of small houses on 2 streets with a backyard with no fences. So it was like one big backyard all the way down. And so everybody in the neighborhood, the kids and the adults, would come running, and he'd cut up a watermelon, and the kids would take first, right? And we'd eat watermelon, and then he'd cut up another, and the adults would take their pieces, and by that time, the kids had all finished their first pieces, so we'd cut up the third one for the kids. So we're going to orchestrate this. Rehearsals are good. Also learned that in high school. I'm going to move my arm like this. And when you see my arm come down, you start the sound, and you end when I get my knee. All right? On the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. That was good. But this is the sweetest watermelon you've ever tasted. So a little more on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Good. Now, whenever I make that motion, we'll do it in the song. Okay? This is the song you might sing in my garden every summer. You have to stay up late to hear them and be able to translate mouse. Just take my word. That's what they say. You can plant a watermelon up above our house and let the juice seep through. You can plant a watermelon up above our house. It's all we ask of you. Chocolate chip cookies, they taste mighty fine. Nothing's quite as sweet as a watermelon vine. You can plant a watermelon up above our house and let the juice seep through. That's it, it's very short. But it does remind me of my grandfather too, besides my dad, because my grandfather is the one who taught me how to spit watermelon seeds. You know, I don't know why my parents didn't teach this, but you know, they were busy with something else, I guess. And it was before we moved down to Huntsville. I was staying with my grandparents while my dad was in boot camp, and my brothers were born yet, and we were having watermelon. And this was back when watermelon actually had seeds. Nowadays, you get a watermelon in the store, you bring it home. Most often, you cut it open, it's got these little white things in it that are dreaming about becoming seeds, but never, no, they're not going to. The first bite I remember having of watermelon was full of seeds. That like top of the little wedge, the triangle, and they were big honker seeds. So I was sitting at the table in my grandparents' place in Braintree, very formal dining room, and I take my first bite of watermelon, and I remember I'm moving the watermelon around inside my mouth, you know, so I get the watermelon to one side of my mouth, and the seeds to the other side of my mouth, so I can swallow the watermelon without swallowing the seeds. Because I had been told by a kid in the neighborhood that if you swallowed a watermelon seed, it would grow into a watermelon inside your stomach. I do not want to have that happen. So I finally got the seeds to one side, the watermelon to the other side. I swallowed the seeds swallowed the watermelon, I spit out the seeds on the plate, and my grandfather looked down and he sat next to the table. He said, you know, you can spit those up in the air. Really? Yeah, I'll show you how. Immediately, my mom and my grandmother got up from the table. And they went out in the kitchen. They knew what was going to happen. Now, you don't actually spit the seeds, right? You blow them with air. You get one seed on your tongue, and you make it all over your mouth like this. You put your tongue right behind your lower lip, and then you blow the seed out of your mouth. Well, my grandfather was really good at it, and he taught me how to be really good at it. We were so good at it. We were getting seeds out of the ceiling in my grandmother's dining room was lower than this ceiling. We were getting seeds stuck on the ceiling of the dining room. It was cool. And my grandfather, just the night before, he'd been teaching me about constellations. So we started making constellations of watermelon seeds on the ceiling. This is probably another reason my mom and my grandmother left the room. They knew something like this would happen. The Big Dipper, the Little Dipper, La Quesadilla, which is W, Orion was a lot harder. We had to use a lot of seeds. And finally, I was so full, I probably ate 3 more pieces of watermelon than I would have if we hadn't gotten all these seeds stuck on the ceiling. And I said, Grandpa, I'm so full. Can I be excused? He said, wait a minute. Before excused, we got to clean up after ourselves, or your grandmother's going to kill me. I looked up at the ceiling and I said, Grandpa, I can't reach it. He said, oh, here. And he handed me one of those little Dixie cups. You know those, right? With the riddles, the dinosaurs on. Can't remember what was on these, but it was a Dixie cup. I held it and I lifted up at this. I still can't reach. He said, I'll help you. And he grabbed me around the wrist and he picked me up in the air. And between his height and my height, I could reach the seats. And I started picking the seats off the ceiling. It was kind of fun, and unsticking them and plunking them into the cup. It was kind of a rhythm instrument. I was having a great time. I finally got them all down. I said, Graham, I'm done. He said, good. He put me down. I put the cup on the table and I ran out to play. I am 70 years old. And I can still remember what it felt like to be lifted up in the air by my grandmother. And I'll never forget it. And I lifted my kids up in the air to get seeds off the ceiling. And they won't forget that. This spring was my grandfather's wedding. And when I got divorced, I took it from this one to this one so I could still wear it. And every time I touch it, it reminds me of it. Every time I tell that story, my grandmother, my mom's here, my grandfather's here, and you've got stories that remind you of people. When you tell them, they'll be right there with you. So I hope you tell your favorite story to somebody else. Thanks. I want to thank the library for having me. A special thanks to the Westborough Cultural Council who helped fund my visit. And to you guys for being here. This is a lot to have you.